Whatever you would like on your cruise. However, you're not free from consequences. So every single modern cruise ship has roughly 200 to 300 cameras on board. Some are over by the full deck, some are in the restaurant, some are in the nightclub while you're there shaking a tail feather, and some are overlooking every balcony. These cameras are recording 24/7. Well, except for that one time that died from the conflict that just miraculously disappeared like a bee. But that was an anomaly, a very rare situation. In other words, the captain and the crew can essentially see everything you're doing on your balcony, whether you are smoking, you're having an argument, you decide to throw something overboard. Please don't do that. Think about the whales and the dolphin and the tuna. More importantly, they see when you're doing all that naughty stuff.
Why is their army so much more massive than mine? We need to build more barracks before we get turned into XP for the enemy.
The Dagestani fan base has revealed themselves as the sorest losers in the MMA community after years of scoffing, laughing, and discounting any excuse from any fighter that came up against their own. They are now doing the exact same thing and have not stopped on my timeline for the past week. I feel like all I've seen for the past week on my timeline has been them making excuses for Magomed Ankalaev. And you know what? He does have an excuse for this fight, but welcome to the fight game. Fighters fight injured. I know this is very common for you guys because your fighters seem to pull out whenever they don't have an ideal training camp, as we'll go through in the rest of this video. But this is the fight game. Injuries happen. You laughed at other fighters that have lost to your own, or lost in general before in the past, that have made excuses for their losses for many years, and you completely shunned them and said, excuses, you saw, whatever, it doesn't mean anything, you showed up to fight anyway. They did that for years because their fighters were winning. Now their fighters are losing, it's a whole different story. Ankalaev loses to Pereira. I feel like I haven't been able to enjoy it as much as I really want to. Don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed everything. Okay? I enjoyed seeing what Pereira did to Ankalaev on the ground, finishing it in 80 seconds after Ankalaev curled up in a ball on the ground after one solid punch landed that wobbled him, quit him on the ground to a TKO defeat in 80 seconds. I really enjoyed it. But boy are these losers, these sore losers, really trying to take away from Pereira's win. They scoff and laugh at Alex Pereira's excuses in the build-up. I said this tweet earlier this week. I said, I don't know if you've been made aware of this by retards on here for the last couple of days or not, but Magomed Ankalaev was the first fighter in UFC history to fight whilst having an injury. Welcome to the fight game, you fucks. Western fighters do this shit every week, and that's so true. Alex Pereira was injured for the first fight with Ankalaev. These same people that are making excuses now scoffed and laughed at those excuses of Alex Pereira. And you know what? I was even saying in the build up to this fight. I mentioned it in my press conference reaction video. I picked Ankalaev to win the rematch because I laughed at the excuses of Alex Pereira. It turns out I was wrong to. But I laughed at the excuses of Alex Pereira in their first fight where he lost. And just put it up to, you know what, Ankalaev was the better man. He won the fight. I'm picking him in the rematch. And in my press conference reaction video, I even said, Alex Pereira's kind of making some BS excuses, man. I don't know about this. I was 40% going into the first fight. I wasn't myself. I was I was a lesser version of myself, and he still couldn't beat me. And I was saying things like, these are excuses, whether you like it or not. I got a lot of heat for that in my comment section from Alex Pereira fans. What do you mean they're just excuses? They're legitimate. He had a broken hand in that fight. This is the game. Everybody fights injured. Everybody has injuries going into a fight. And these guys are acting like this is the first time a fighter has ever been injured before, because it happened to one of theirs. It's pathetic. It's sad. We go through this here. Daniel Cormier confirmed. We're going to go through the head on stuff. We're going to go through like Makhachev and his team holding like a post-fight press conference of excuses to explain the loss of Umar Nurmagomedov. I mean, there's so much to go through here. But it starts with this. Daniel Cormier confirms that Magomed Ankalaev fought Alex Pereira with a rib injury. This is not a lie. This is not an excuse. This, an excuse can be true. Excuses have been true for the vast majority of UFC history. The fighters had to deal with them and accept their loss. McGregor's foot was at Leon. He did break his foot and break his toe in the build-up of the Khabib fight. The same fans that have propped up Ankalaev's loss because of this and demanding a trilogy stopped and laughed at McGregor's excuses for why he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Sean broke his rib in the build-up to his fight with Magomed Ankalaev. Where did I put it? Here he is. There's a picture of it as well. You'll know this was a common story at the time. O'Malley broke his rib in the build-up to his fight with Aljamain Sterling for the world title and still knocked out Aljamain Sterling in round 2 by TKO. That's the truth. Fighters fight with injuries. Aljamain Sterling, even though the story is about O'Malley, we had it on video, by the way, for his injury. It's purely allowed in the comments from Haravez's profile, clearly faking an injury for the cameras. He knew Aljo was injured and faked an injury on camera so people wouldn't discredit his win. These are the same people that are now making excuses, maybe not a Superior fan doing it. O'Malley injured his rib in the fight with Aljo. He had a broken rib, he couldn't wrestle in the build-up. He still knocked out Aljo for the World Championship. Aljo had injuries and spoke about how bad his training camp was for the Sean O'Malley fight. He's always mentioning that over and over and over again. That O'Malley fight, that was BS, I got rushed back into another fight. And it's true, he did. There is always an excuse for a loss. DC to say this. This is not a lie, this is not an excuse. Prior to the fight, I saw a video of him getting injections into his rib. Prior to the fight, I saw a video of him getting injections into his rib. Let it be known that this is what that sentence means. They were going around backstage, going DC. Just letting you know beforehand when he loses. That is insane to me. They're showing people this before the fight. They're showing this. I saw a video of prior to the fight, he was getting injections into his rib. The way this is worded, prior to the fight, I saw a video of this. It means they were setting up the excuses nice enough. Before the fight even began, they were making sure the message was loud and clear that if we lose this one, it's because of the rib injury. And everyone, make sure when he's getting his rib injury, you get a real good shot of it with the camera. Make sure you're there with a video camera. We're going to need this as evidence when we fucking lose. To Pereira, like, what is this? He was able to hit pads and do cardio essentially for a month and a half before the fight. DC, of course, the resident Dagestani defender, as he usually is, because most of them are in AKA, the Khabib alliance that he has. I get it. Makhachev's undefeated, don't really play this game too much, but even he was like, I've started infection for this. I had started, anytime Makhachev has a close fight, it's start infection, guys. It's just start infection to build up this fight. Is it like, I wasn't rehydrated? Remember when he did that for the first Volkanovski fight? Even though they had the same rehydration window as each other, I wasn't rehydrated for that one. Meanwhile, Volk steps in after surgery, taking the Makhachev fight on 2 weeks' notice or a week's notice, whatever it was. He had all the laid-up excuses. Makhachev had still an amazing win for Makhachev. Not 1 week's notice for KO. Makhachev fan will just list through that and say, amazing win for Makhachev. And that's what we do in this game. Regardless of the injuries that these guys have shown up. That's the game. Welcome to it. You fucks. I know you're fighters, and I'm going to go through Khabib's early career. Pull out anytime there's not an ideal training camp. I'm notorious for doing so. These last cancellations aren't him, but a lot of these early ones are. Movsar Evloev. Not all of these cancellations are him, but a lot of them are. If more fighters didn't turn up anytime they didn't have an ideal training camp, they'd win a lot more as well. That's how it would work. But no, you've got Volk stepping in on a week's notice against Makhachev. You've got Sean O'Malley risking it all against Aljamain Sterling with a broken rib. You've got Aljo rushing back into another training camp for the O'Malley fight, risking his legacy, risking his championship. And these same people that scoff at that stuff having a meltdown right now on Twitter. And you've got these people on Twitter as well, these MMA accounts, and YouTubers and people in the space that don't have the personality to get by on like logical takes. They farm this degeneracy from the community, this insolence from the community. This whole thing's insane to me, though. Even here, where does the broken rib come into play here? If this was a situation where Alex Pereira hit Ankalaev to the body with something that didn't even look that bad, and Ankalaev sunk over and held his rib on the ground, I'd understand it completely. Ankalaev got hit with a punch, wobbled, shot him, went to his back, and just accepted defeat immediately on the ground. You want me to get disrespectful about it? He literally shot in after the first clean punch landed and went, yeah, don't like it. No attempt to move, no shot to the rib has been made from Alex Pereira. Or there's people out there saying he targeted the ribs because he knew about the injury of Ankalaev. He targeted the ribs and that's why he got the finish. Look at Ankalaev on the ground. No attempt to get back up to his feet. No attempt to make any level of move. He starts getting hit 4 shots, 12 to 6 elbows. He's covering up, quitting, and accepting a TKO loss. Only later did Pereira start going to the elbows to the ribs because it was open and he needed to mix up his attacks. Ankalaev quits on the ground. I don't know what to say about this. It's just such an annoying thing to see these guys who have lectured us for so long. Laughing at the Western MMA fan. Oh, the excuses these guys make all the time, dude. Oh, a broken foot, really did it? Umar Nurmagomedov was the same situation after the Murad fight. You know I'm going to bring this up. Umar Nurmagomedov speaks out following his loss. No exclusive, inshallah, I'll become a champion. And I do not think I lost this fight, even though the whole world tries to convince me otherwise. See, they do a thing here, Islam speaks on Umar's loss to Murad. They've got like a council of elders in the Dagestan community here, having a speech like we have to give a disclosing statement about Umar's loss and make sure the message is out there. It says that Umar started his camp on 40 days notice with a hand injury and didn't want to miss his title shot. Umar doesn't need to change a lot, just needs to deserve another chance and get a full camp. Excuses. Hand injury, had a hand injury going into it. I said Umar was injured, run it back, still nearly won. Murad was also injured for the fight with Umar. O'Malley was injured against Murad. O'Malley was injured against Sterling. So was Sterling. They laughed off O'Malley's injury against Murad. That's what we do. Everybody's got some shit going on. No camp is ideal. This is the game. Welcome to it. Jan was injured against Murad. He tore his groin. Murad was injured for that fight as well. Welcome to the game. This is how it works. I know you lot don't show up often if things ain't perfect, but that's how the rest of it is. When you've got other guys stepping in on 2 weeks' notice, 1 week's notice, I'll take that for a couple days' notice. This guy steps in less than ideal circumstances. Sean Strickland flies across the world to Australia on 2 weeks, however many weeks' notice it was, 3 weeks' notice to fight Israel Adesanya for the World Championship. That's the game. That's what we do. This is the fight game. And I said it's such a shame to see, honestly. We've been lectured on this so-called humbleness for the past 5 years by the Dagestani fan base. What did Umar do the first second? He was announced as the loser to Murad Davlashvili in his very Octagon interview. I should have won. I broke my hand. I was injured. I deserve this. I call him a pathetic chicken because that's what they call Western fighters. The Guna talks. By the way, Arsenal fans, you could not have picked a worse nickname for yourself. That has aged absolutely terrible. The Guna talks. Video released on Netflix of Conor McGregor's toe break while preparing for Khabib. Remember the whole thing about him breaking his foot in the build-up? His foot was a balloon. We got pictures of his feet with the X-ray, and his foot was massive and inflated and terrible. Who cares? He got his ass whooped by Khabib. And look what I'm about to do here. I'm about to scroll down on this very post. I wish I could tell you this was planned. This is random, and it proves my point perfectly. Video released on Netflix of Conor McGregor's toe break while preparing for Khabib. Nurmagomedov Kurbatayev. You don't need a toe to lay on your back and get repeatedly punched in the face. I wish I was making this up, but no, it's perfectly illustrated. Talk about laying on your back and repeatedly getting punched in the face. You want to talk about that? Laying on your back. You don't need a ring to lay on your back and get repeatedly punched in the face. That is so perfect. Ed is his first. Literally shares a first name with the guy. I bet you someone like this would be like, give Ankalaev the trilogy. He deserves to run it back. And the dude, he was injured in that fight, blah, blah, blah. But they will scoff at the idea of anyone else being injured. Laugh at the excuse of it all. This is the...
You can choose to raid the caravan, or you can choose to guard it. This is a game where
Khabib, Evloev, pulling out when things ain't perfect. They've had fighters pull out against them as well. This happens when you should be best in circumstances. Yeah, Pereira, this is the big point. When Pereira showed up against Ankalaev, it's not a huge shame. The excuses were kind of people accepted Ankalaev to beat him. I did. I accepted it, and you know me, okay? You know Kobe, okay? I know Kobe. Believe me, I know excuses like I accepted it and said, you know what, I think Ankalaev's just a better fighter. I don't see him going on 13 takedowns again. I reckon this time will be a different fight and Ankalaev's going to get the TKO. I was dead wrong. When Ankalaev showed up in good shape and Pereira was injured, he took him to a competitive 5-round decision. That's now being retroactively labelled as domination. I'm sick of that. The 3 rounds to 2 dominations, that's got to fucking stop. It's by the same fan base as well. When Ankalaev showed up less than in great shape against Pereira, he got walked down, fucked up, and folded and quit the first good punch on that. That's the truth. He got hit by one good shot, folded up on the ground. Any shot he didn't win, he was covering up in a ball on the ground, looking for referee to step in, accepting ground shots over and over and over. This is I don't like it. But these guys have just watched this game, they don't know what this is, they don't know what this is. This is bingo. Fight game. That's the end of that. I even said this at the end of my initial tweet as well. I said they called O'Malley a pussy bitch. These are the type of people that say they call O'Malley. These are the type of people. They would happily say that. O'Malley was just chicken, terrible fighter, got ragdoll, dominated, or a loser. Even if O'Malley comes out with an injury. Excuses, pathetic, chicken, making excuses, coping, all of this stuff. He won his title with a dream. He got hit by Aljo. He had takedown attempts on him by Aljo in that fight. Pereira broke his foot to a sleep movement, very sleep fight. Landed a low kick, broke his foot, slept out fight, down to TKO. It's around the punch shots. These same people coping now. I've got people that O'Malley a pussy for the past few years. He won his title with a broken rib. Ankalaev got hit once and folded and quit. How does that make him in your eyes? Someone to go for? Someone to justify the loss of? Someone to make up excuses for? I don't made up. Someone to justify the excuses of? There's a kind of the endless excuses for people want them over in a mid-fight. As the dead fighters pull out so regular when they don't have a perfect camp or weight cut. So whenever they actually do turn up injured, they make the biggest deal of it ever. Gregor had a broken foot against Khabib and they popped the excuse. Alex had a broken hand against Andy and they popped it too. Is that pathetic, but in my opinion, the worst losers in the sport build themselves over the past week. And they didn't let children play morally superior to the rest of the sport. They don't make excuses. It's easy to see when you win. It's easy to be a good sportsman as a winner. It's easy to not make excuses when you win by finish. You win your fight. If Bolt didn't have an excuse in the Makhachev rematch on 1 week's notice, it's just pathetic. It really is. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. They're the same people that have lectured us for so long. It's been a week of tears. It's been a week of tears. Goodbye. See you later.
The
Dagestani fan bases revealed themselves.
Bedtime Crew. Hey man, listen, today I am here with a highly requested video, something that's been in the works on this channel for maybe even a year at this point. I feel like we've been talking about the cockroach maxes of the UFC for a very long time. Today I'm here to deliver the cockroach tier list. Now basically, for those of you that don't know what the fuck a cockroach is in the UFC, I'm talking about the fighters that you can drop a nuke on them, they're gonna survive. They have extremely high durability. They're not the most skillful, they're not the most technical, but they can fluke a win over basically anybody if they can survive long enough and, you know, mitigate enough damage to win that fight later on. Obviously, some great examples in history: Anthony Smith, Neil Magny, GM3. These guys are all going to be mentioned on the tier list today. Nate Diaz, another cockroach maxer. that type of fighter. So if they're down in the C and the D tier, they've lost a little bit of their magic, or, you know, they have some of the characteristics, but they don't necessarily have the ability to really finish the job. If they're up in the B, the A, or the S tier, they are an extremely dangerous cockroach that if you do too well against them early on, you are probably going to get finished later in that fight. That's what they do. This is what he does. That's the type of guys you gotta fuck, right, man? Let's get into this with a very solid candidate. Listen, dude, I know I'm the evil dude. I'm literally a guy. Brian Ortega is a great example of what the fuck I'm talking about. He's lost a little bit of the sauce. There was a time back in the day where I became a huge fan of this guy, where basically anybody that got in there with him, it was only a matter of time before he flew the submission over them. He is one of the most durable fighters in the UFC. He just looks at you, mewing, just looking really fucking good, looking towards you, and hopes that you will gas out from beating him up on the feet, shoot a bad takedown, end up in a grappling exchange, gas out, and then he's likely to finish you. So Brian Ortega is a very, very good example of a cockroach maxer, but he's losing a little bit of his danger factor, he's losing a little bit of his pop, and he's going to be going up to 155, where I think the damage is going to wear him a lot worse as well. So with all of these things considered, I'm going to put my boy T-City in the B tier. I still feel like he has all the characteristics of a very high-level cockroach maxer, but he's not getting the results that some of these other guys are getting, especially in the modern day right now, unfortunately. It pains me to say it, dude. I just have to say it like it is, man. It is what it is. We'll start the fucking storyline, dude. All right. This next guy, though, man.
Dallas is winning this week. You can trade on it.
Man, this guy pisses me off, dude. This is the guy that I would fucking hate to lose to, because he does cockroach max hard. I'm going to put Roman Dolidze in the C tier, okay? I don't think he has the finesse of a Neil Magny, a Brian Ortega, GM3, you know, to kind of almost purposefully lose a little bit and then lock in a submission. I think Roman Dolidze is just a fucking caveman. Just a straight up, dead, boarding caveman coming at you, swinging hooks, hoping that you will get tired and then he can lock up a submission. It's kind of different. It's not necessarily his style. I think the difference is Brian Ortega and some of these other high-level cockroaches, they're almost kind of prepared to do what they need to do. Whereas Roman Dolidze, I think this guy genuinely thinks he's like a top fucking 10 contender. I think Roman Dolidze genuinely thinks he's going to go in there and get like a round one finish, just destroy you. But he's just so durable, so blocky, just such a fucking flukester that he just gets his ass kicked and then he can magically get a submission later on in the fight. It feels a little bit less part of his fighting style and more just like, oh wow, Roman Dolidze actually won, you know? That is at least my assessment of it. Maybe I'm a fucking hater because I'm not a big Roman Dolidze fan, you guys know this. But maybe that's just my assessment, maybe I'm biased, but that's the way that I see it. And right alongside him in the C tier, we're going to put another flukester there, Cheeto Vera. Now, Cheeto Vera, the thing about this fucking kid is he has all the potential to be an A tier cockroach. I really believe that. That's a real thing. I really feel like, Tucky Vera, this guy's got a lot of potential. I really believe that. I really do. I think he beats Sean O'Malley in a trilogy. I really think that. Listen, bro. Cheeto Vera has all the tools to be a mini Nate Diaz, to be a full-blown cockroach maxer of the highest order. He just does nothing. Like, Cheeto Vera's halfway there in terms of the durability. He has good finishing abilities. He just never fucking does anything in these fights now. He just doesn't do the second part of what a cockroach maxer does. He gets his ass kicked, but then he doesn't fluke a finish in round 3 or 4 anymore. That's not Cheeto fencing at range, hoping that he can win a split decision against you and get another fight against Sean O'Malley. I think Cheeto Vera has all the